So welcome everyone. Again, my name is Szymon Serwatka and I work for DELMIA. I'm based in Krakow in Poland and I manage technical training for the brand, and I'm very happy to be here with you today. The webinar today is part of a preparation for the VS Channel Sales Leader Convention events, and these events will have opportunity for you guys to be certified on different programs. So yesterday we had one session about the mid-market articulate exam, and today we'll talk about the DELMIA Brand Essentials. I'll switch to the screenshot mode. Yeah. Yes, so just to remind you, what is a certification in 3DS world? We have 3DX University, which is our primary platform to spread knowledge and to train people and also to certify. So you should be familiar by now that many brands, many industries, and also roles, they have training and certification. So basically, the principle is that you have training. Then after you take the training, you can take an exam, and once you pass the exam or the exams, because some certifications have multiple exams, then you get certified and you get with this wonderful badge with Dassault System logo that you can use. The DELMIA certifications that are currently deployed for the VS channel, we have 5 exams. There's DELMIA Brand Essentials. We have DELMIA SCPO Articulate. SCPO stands for Sales, Supply Chain Planning and Operations. DELMIA MOM Articulate. MOM stands for Manufacturing Operations Management. We have Machining Mid-Market Articulate and Machining Mid-Market Demonstrate. And the Articulate programs in general are aimed at the people who are sales people, so that they know better how to articulate value of the particular offer of the brand. And demonstrate programs are in general directed at the tech sales people who need to demonstrate the values that are articulated in the articulate programs. And by the way, if any of you has a question, please use the chat on the panel of this meeting, and I will address the questions at the end of the webinar. Yes, so today we'll talk about the DELMIA Brand Essentials. So what we'll talk about in this webinar is I will explain what is the structure of the training, what is the structure of the exam, and I will walk you through the most important elements of the training. I mean, the important in this sense are those parts of the training that are most heavily represented in the exam questions. Because at the end of the day, we all would like you to be successful in passing the exam and be certified. This webinar will not answer all the questions that you might have. There's a lot of training materials that need to be studied in the 3DX University, and I would like to encourage you to spend some time to study the training content that we prepared for you. So when you look at the DELMIA Brand Essentials as a training, it has 6 sections. We have the introduction, we have DELMIA Landscape, DELMIA Equity, DELMIA Users, DELMIA Portfolio, and DELMIA Business Overview. This is a standard layout of Brand Essentials, and these arrows, they point already to the 2 chapters that are most heavily represented in the exam questions. So the DELMIA Landscape is one, and DELMIA Portfolio is the other one. In DELMIA Landscape, we talk about the context in which DELMIA functions. So this is mostly about manufacturing, and I will tell you more in a couple of minutes. And in DELMIA Portfolio, we explain what are the different software components that are part of the DELMIA offer. I will tell you more about this as well. And you will see in a moment what I mean, that these parts are most important to be successful in passing the exam, because the exam structure is this. So the exam has 50 questions. They are randomly generated from a pool of questions, and if you want to pass this exam, you need to answer at least 40 of them correctly. And this 80% mark, I think it's shared across many programs in Dassault System. The duration of the exam is 60 minutes, so you have 1 hour. The languages, the primary language is English. This is also the language of the training materials. We translated the exam into Chinese, French, German, Japanese, and Korean. So if you like, you can try some of these languages to take the exam. Also, from my experience and from talking to other people from other brands, if the training is in English, then the best option to take the exam is also in English, because then you have one-to-one consistency between the training materials, handouts, and the questions. And these 50 questions, they are not generated randomly from one big pool of questions, but we have 6 different pools so that we could define what is more important in the exam, what is not. So in each set of 50 questions, 5 questions are generated from the pool that represents the, we call it the brand general information, like the introduction, what is the equity, what is the promise, vision, and the users. We have 10 questions from the chapter which is about DELMIA landscape, which is basically about the world of manufacturing. And the other questions, so 35 questions, are from one chapter, that is the DELMIA portfolio chapter. You will see later on that there are different sections in this chapter, and the digital continuity has 5 questions, and the 3 main software components of DELMIA, digital manufacturing, Aprizo and Ortems, they are each represented with 10 questions. So this means that if you aim it to be successful in the exam, I think that most of the time when you study the materials, you need to spend on the DELMIA portfolio chapter. Regarding the exams, this is the structure of the questions. So we basically have 3 kinds of questions. There's either a multiple choice, so there's 1 correct question, correct answer out of 4, or multiple response, so you may have 2 or 3 out of 4, and all the question always indicates how many answers are correct, or we have true or false questions. Some questions, also not all of them, can be illustrated with pictures if they are relevant for the question. And the questions are grouped into sections. So these are the questions that I just mentioned. They are the ones here on the right-hand side. Yeah, so what I would like to do now, I would like to start a walkthrough through the content, and I will focus on the most important chapters of the Brand Essentials. The first important chapter is the DELMIA landscape. You will see here that the DELMIA landscape has 6 different sections. There's technology, manufacturing business processes, planning, scheduling, manufacturing know-how, continuous improvement methodologies, and technology trends and customer challenges. This is a content that can take probably one and a half hour, perhaps more, because we explain here a lot of manufacturing terminology, processes, know-how, continuous improvements. So we explain here and present the language that our customers speak, the language that people we talk to when we sell our software speak. And there is nothing yet here about the DELMIA as such and the DELMIA software as such. And I will briefly talk you through each of these 6 sections. In terms of terminology, so we start with some generic terms like process planning, manufacturing processes. So we identified by working with our SMEs what are the most common terms that manufacturing people use. And by the way, if some of you already have a strong manufacturing background, this will probably be a very easy and obvious section. But we understand that there are a lot of people who are interested in DELMIA Brand Essentials, and they may come more from engineering or software background than from manufacturing. So to some people, this may be quite new. But this is a very simple section, so there are just 9 terms that we present in the manufacturing context. It's not very complicated. But then we go deeper into the section that is related to manufacturing business processes. So here in this section, the training explains more about what are different processes, how are processes defined in manufacturing. We use an example. What is a process to produce a product? What is a typical information flow between different systems to execute a process? What are different process categories? And here I included a screenshot about discrete manufacturing, batch manufacturing, continuous manufacturing, because these are the things that we most frequently talk about to our customers. So a discrete manufacturing, as an example, is a manufacturing where each product has a serial number. So it's a very distinct piece of a product that is easily identifiable. So like, the picture shows a tractor, but a car, airplane, or an air-to-air missile is a very good example. The batch manufacturing is that we produce products in bulk, but still parts of, you can divide the bulk into clearly identifiable sections. So this is where we use lot tracking. For example, if you buy a box of Coke cans, the Coke cans, they are tracked by lot. I mean, it's not that each can of Coke has a unique serial number. They are identified by a lot, which represents a period of time and the production line and the location where it is produced. And then we have also continuous manufacturing, which is most difficult to track because this is the type of manufacturing that is best represented by examples like coal mining, or production of steel, or production of petrol, different kind of chemicals that you have really bulk. You have large containers, mixers, and it's quite difficult to differentiate, to clearly identify when the main point here is that it's most difficult to tell when one production stops and another starts, because this is quite complex. So all these things they are captured in this manufacturing business processes section. The next section is dedicated to planning and scheduling, because DELMIA SCPO, Supply Chain Planning and Operations, addresses planning and scheduling aspects of the manufacturing. So here is where we explain different planning horizons, different dimensions of decision making, different planning levels, and also different concepts that are used by people who are professional process planners and they work in scheduling. I mark here in orange that it is not about ORTEMs. There's a reason for this comment, because I've heard in the past, because this DELMIA Brand Essentials was launched in, I think, we launched it mid-2017, so it's been already a year and a half where this exam is active and hundreds of people took it. Some people come to me and say, oh, Shimon, there is too much about ORTEMs in the DELMIA Brand Essentials. It is not completely true, because we have a section in the exam that deals with ORTEMs as software, and this is the portfolio section that is dedicated to SCPO. But we also have this section in the landscape that deals with planning and scheduling. So some people confuse planning and scheduling and ORTEMs, which is quite easy to confuse because ORTEMs is a software that does the planning and scheduling. But I just wanted to have it here on the slide so that you know, if you have the luck that you will have many questions in the landscape about planning and scheduling, it's not that you are being asked to be experts in ORTEMs as such. And the next section is the manufacturing know-how. Like previous section was about planning and scheduling know-how. In the manufacturing know-how, we talk more about manufacturing engineer language. So we talk about the different concepts of layout of factories. We talk about stock point strategies. We talk about inventory, what kind of inventory exists in the companies, whether it's good or bad, or it depends. What are the bottlenecks? We explain the push approach versus pull approach. And for that purpose, we use an example of a sushi bar where when there is this conveyor belt that runs around the table where the sushi is made and you pick what you want. This is more made to stock, so the chefs, they're not really interested in what you like, they just produce and they push sushi to the conveyor belt, against a different type of the sushi restaurant where you make an order and then your chef is making an order just for you, which is a pull approach. And in this section we also talk about the continuous improvement methodologies, because you'll see in the training material that we use DELMIA software not only to digitize processes, but also to improve or to help customers reinvent their business so that they are more efficient. So they're more efficient not only because they use our software, but they are more efficient because our software is so flexible that they can implement different ideas, different improvement concepts that they may have always had on their mind but never had a chance to do. That's why in the continuous improvement methodologies we present the basic concepts of lean management, of Six Sigma, because this is also type of the language that we talk to our customers. And I think I jumped ahead with the continuous improvement, because yeah, that's exactly what I just said, that here we present the theory of constraints, we talk about basics of lean manufacturing and the basics of Six Sigma. And the market strengths are just the last section. So here are just a couple of slides that explain the technology trends, customer challenges, that the DELMIA offer addresses. So that was the DELMIA landscape section. Now I would like to talk to you more about the DELMIA portfolio, because you may remember that the DELMIA portfolio represents 35 questions out of the 50 questions that you will have in the exam. So DELMIA portfolio has 5 sections, but the 4 that are most important, and they represent probably 90 or 95% of the content, is the digital continuity, digital manufacturing, manufacturing operations management, and supply chain planning and operation. I'll talk through the 4 main ones in a moment, but what I want to say now is, because you may have heard either of digital manufacturing or manufacturing operations management, or PRISO, supply chain planning operations, or TEMS, but I don't know how many of you have heard of digital continuity. So you may know already, or you will find out from the training materials, that DELMIA has three main branches of software: digital manufacturing, MOM, and SCPO. The idea for this is that in digital manufacturing, you are able to design your manufacturing process in 3D, create a virtual twin, and test it end-to-end, how it will look in reality. Then this manufacturing process is used by manufacturing operations management, by APRISO, because APRISO imports process descriptions, and this is a software that allows the execution of the process plan. And then we use ORTEMS, supply chain planning operations of DELMIA, to plan, optimize, schedule. Yeah? So you have 3 different parts. And I think historically, we have had customers, some customers, they took just digital manufacturing. Some took only APRISO, some took only ORTEMS. But what we believe is that what adds really the most value to our customers is a digital continuity. So we get the most value to our customers if we combine all these three things together, because if you can design your product in 3D, then build the process plan based on this design in 3D, and you can execute it, and you can improve it, plan, and optimize it, then you have an end-to-end solution to most of your manufacturing challenges. And this is what we mean by digital continuity. And that's why the digital continuity is the first part of this DELMIA portfolio chapter. And then everything that you learn about digital manufacturing or MOM or SCPO needs to be understood in the context of digital continuity. And that's why when the DELMIA portfolio exam section has 35 questions, so there are 10 questions about digital manufacturing, 10 about MOM, 10 about SCPO, and 5 about digital continuity. Okay, so let me now go into some detail about the DELMIA portfolio. Okay, so digital continuity. So we position our offer not only in the DELMIA digital continuity, but all in the digital continuity that is the general Dassault System vision. So we position our DELMIA software into Dassault System Compass, where the 3D experience is the part that is ideally combining all pieces together. The engineer part, this is the digital manufacturing part, where we can engineer all industrial processes and design them, simulate them, and test them to make sure that our manufacturing processes are exactly the right ones. Then we have the operate dimension. Oops, where's my mouse cursor? Operate dimension, which is about the execution. This is appraisal. This is manufacturing operations management. And we also have the optimize, which is the SCPO planning and scheduling the ORTEMs. And because all of this can be combined into one solution, this means that we also provide collaboration for everyone. And the digital continuity, the value of it is that we can connect innovation with product delivery and all users. So we can provide an end-to-end solution, break organizational silo walls to have a true collaboration to satisfy customer requirements. Because we have one solution, we can enable users with data-driven digital industrial experiences. So we can share the information between different teams to make sure that we have a full understanding of what we deliver to the customers. And the third value is the empowering users with model-based decision support, which in particular means the digital manufacturing, where you can plan the processes, design work cells, design the whole processes, and then you can go down to designing a work cell or a robotic cell and put them together to have a 3D production line model, both for new factories, for green plants, and also for brown plants. The brown plant means an existing factory where we need to enhance the existing production line. The brown plant has more challenges because there are things already existing in there, while the green plant is easy or easier because there's an open field and everything needs to be built already. So you have more flexibility in planning and in releasing your imagination. So that is about the digital continuity, just in a nutshell. Digital manufacturing. So in digital manufacturing, we have the flow is that we are already combined, by the way, with other parts of the Dassault system. So the digital continuity, the true digital continuity does not really start with DELMIA digital manufacturing. It starts much earlier because we work with CATIA and Enovia brands to take over the 3D designs of products. We convert them into BOM, into manufactured bill of material, where we define the product to build and how this can be built. We can process plan the process to build the product. And for example, if we can see that some parts are designed in a way that you cannot easily assemble them together or weld them together, then we feed back to the CATIA designers and say, guys, you need to design something differently. So we have a feedback loop with the preceding steps. And the last part of the digital manufacturing is addressing the questions of where we have the possibilities to define physical resources and layouts of production sites. And in order to realize this generic flow, we have 4 distinct software components, I could say, although each of one has different roles. But when we talk about digital manufacturing in terms of software, we usually differentiate the software to plan the processes and simulate the processes. Then we have apps and roles to design robotic cells. We have apps and roles to design NC machines, how they should move, how they should operate to produce the parts that need to be produced. And we also have the roles and apps about ergonomics, where we can build in 3D work cells for operators. And actually this is quite, I mean, each of these 4 is a very fun and exciting area, but I particularly like the ergonomics because what I like about it is that there are some scientific data collected together, and we have different human mannequins depending on the race, nationality, gender. So for example, if you plan a factory in Vietnam, you can pick a mannequin that represents an average male or female from the Southeast Asia. While if you design a factory in Germany, where Germans are usually taller, for example, than the rest of the world, then you can take a Western European or a German mannequin, and then you can design the work cell so that it fits the ergonomics for this region. And this is not only about the ergonomics. We also use the ergonomics to design work cells in a safe way, so that all tools are reachable, that the work cell is safe, that the movements that a human needs to make will not cause any chronic pains, anything like that. So there's actually much more into this. But this is about the digital manufacturing, where we take a 3D design of a product, we break it down into the pieces that need to be produced, then we design a process, and then we design the parts of the process down to the work cell, to robotic movements, to NC machine movements, into human movements. The next part of the DELMIA portfolio is MOM, Manufacturing Operations Management, which in terms of software is equivalent to DELMIA Aprizo. So this is the DELMIA Aprizo slide that shows what DELMIA Aprizo is. So the DELMIA Aprizo is, or perhaps I should have said something here, because all of you must have heard about the 3D Experience platform. This is the way to go for the Dassault system, and this is our go-to-market strategy. And in the long term, all functionalities the Dassault system offers will be offered through the 3D Experience platform. But when Dassault system acquires different companies, so these companies, they come with a software that obviously is not on the 3D Experience platform just yet. And Aprizo is such software. So this means that DELMIA MOM is not on 3D Experience platform. We have better and better integration mechanisms, and I think in the long term, at some point, this should be all on the 3D Experience. But at this moment, and for the next few years, DELMIA MOM is a separate software that has standard interfaces to 3D Experience platform. So the DELMIA Aprizo was built as software platform itself, which means that what you can get out of the box is the BPM platform, where BPM stands for Business Process Management. The idea for this is that in Process Builder, it is an app in Aprizo that allows to build screens and screen flows, and also to configure the business logic for all processes that the customer wants us to do. Process Builder is the main tool that is used, and we have a lot of out-of-the-box building blocks that help us to build the desired business logic much more efficiently than in the approach where you would just write code. So that's why the Process Builder is the first and the most important element of the platform. We have reporting and analytics tools. Part of the Process Builder, we build standard screens, but we also have a tool to build very nice looking dashboards. We have MPI, which is an enterprise report planning or business intelligence solution that is using all the manufacturing information from Aprizo to provide management information even at the C level of organization. The platform also has a section that allows Aprizo to talk to machines on the shop floor. We have an archiving mechanism, which is quite important because the Aprizo database, when it is deployed to production, it has to serve hundreds or even thousands of operations per minute, because the Aprizo is responsible for execution of manufacturing processes. And if you have like a cell phone factory where you have one huge factory room and you have 50 production lines, and each of these production lines produces a cell phone every 30 seconds or every minute. All of these production lines, they talk to Aprizo. So there are a lot of transactions. So you can imagine that the database grows rapidly, and we need to. So the archiving is a very important element of this, because on one hand it needs to help to keep the database to a decent size, so that the size of the database doesn't hit the performance. But also the archiving itself needs to be done in the way that it doesn't hurt the performance of the production database. So that's why archiving is a specific item on the Aprizo platform. And we also have the business integrator, which is a part of Aprizo that provides standard interfaces to SAP and helps building interfaces to other third-party systems, because depending on the customer's choice, we use different PLM systems like Product Lifecycle Management System. If the customer has a software to manage maintenance, then we can connect to the maintenance software. If the customer uses a laboratory software to produce quality, to process the quality inspections or sample testing, then the business integrator, we call it BI, helps to connect to the laboratory software as well and feed the data back and forth. So we started about the platform because Aprizo is a very flexible software, which also means that the drawback of being a flexible software is that when we talk about the manufacturing applications like production, warehouse, quality, maintenance, and time and labor, there's in fact very little out of the box. There's very little out of the box, and there's reason for this. The reason for this is that we want our software to be flexible. We want our software to allow all our customers to transform the business. So, and this means that with our extremely flexible platform, we can build any production processes and screen flows that the customer wants, any warehouse processes, any quality processes, any maintenance processes. And what is better than that, because everything is built in Process Builder and everything talks to one database, we combine the flows together. So it's not that we have one production app which doesn't talk to warehouse. In fact, this is just one solution where this production, warehouse, quality, maintenance, they can intersect in any way that the customer wishes us to do. Yeah? So I'll just give one example. So in the traditional world, you have production lines, and you also need to do some quality inspections. And if you don't have a way to do it, then in many cases, still today, the production has to be finished before the quality is checked. But if the product is bad, this means that a lot of resources were wasted by the time someone could check that the quality is wrong. But what we do, what we can do in Aprizo, we can design the production processes in the way that we build in quality checkpoints into the production process. We build in quality checkpoints into the warehouse processes. For example, we can design a receiving process where an inventory is coming into a factory, and while it is unloaded from a truck or from a train or from an aircraft or whatever, before it is moved into the warehouse into production, you can have a quality process that will say, okay, if this is coming from supplier A, we want to inspect every 100th container from this supplier or anything else. So we can combine everything together. And that is actually the true power of Aprizo, that we can build very flexible solutions. They are always extendable. And if a customer at some point wishes to have a customization, to us, customization is a standard thing to do. Okay, so I think I've talked too long about the manufacturing applications. The last part is the global manufacturing suite, because the idea is that we build the solutions in the platform, then we execute on the shop floor through manufacturing operation applications. But you can also imagine that when Aprizo operates on the shop floor, the database collects quite a lot of very interesting information, and this information needs to be used. So that's why we have the global manufacturing suite, where we use this information for different kind of purposes. One purpose is, for example, traceability and containment. So this means that when we produce, for example, a train at Alstom or an aircraft at Boeing, we collect all the information, how a train or an aircraft is built, by whom, when, what was the production machine, what was the status of the production machine, for example, when it was last maintained, what was replaced, and this replacement parts came from which manufacturer or which supplier, when they were received by which warehouse operator, and so on and so on. So we have a lot of genealogy information. We have, in fact, we can maintain full genealogy of any product. And because we have all this information, we can provide the traceability, which means that we always know, when we use Aprizo, where each part of inventory or finished product or semi-finished product is in the process. And we have one customer that is Cummins. They use they build engines and powertrains, and they have multiple factories. So in fact, they split the production processes across multiple factories around the globe. So if they want to know where a particular shipment of gearboxes is, they can use Aprizo to tell whether it's in factory in Brazil, or perhaps it's at the receiving dock in the US, or perhaps it's somewhere on the container ship in the Atlantic. And containment means that we can use this traceability to stop the inventory that is suspected of being bad. So the containment means, well, you may have heard about the car manufacturing recalls, like, the Toyota recalled thousands of cars a few years ago because the brake system had to be checked, or the airbags had to be replaced, and different this kind of things. When these things happen, when the product is out at the customer, this is a very big cost to the company, not only in terms of the financial cost, but also in the cost of reputation. If we combine the quality processes, if we integrate them into production, into warehouse, into maintenance, a customer is able to detect problems much sooner and way sooner before the finished product will leave the company, and they can use the containment functionality to stop and block the suspect inventory from being used further, whenever this is. Yeah. So there is a whole mechanism to manage such kind of a inventory freeze for the sake of checking the inventory where the problem really is and really separating the faulty inventory from the one that can be used. Manufacturing process intelligence, so we can build high-level KPIs. So for example, we can build something that we call Executive Intelligence Center, which can be an app for a CEO of the factory, not of the factory, the CEO of the company. That can have 100 factories, and he can look at an app and look by the region which factory performs best and which performs worst, and you can drill down to a lot of detail. And the Global Process Manager is the last part of the Global Manufacturing Suite that I want to mention. It's because where Apriso brings the most value are the multi-factory or global enterprises, which has many factories. Like one of our deployments is at Valeo, which is an automotive supplier. It's a French company. They have more than 100 factories around the globe, and they use Apriso in all of them. The Global Process Manager is a tool that we use in Apriso to quickly share, disseminate the design processes to multiple factories. So this means that when we deploy Apriso solution in the first factory, we actually need to build all the processes, screen flows, business logic. But then once you decide which processes and screen flows are standard, we can use Global Process Manager to deploy to the next 10 factories or to next 20, 30, 40, 50 factories, which means that every next factory takes less time to deploy the solution. Okay, I talked a lot about the DELMIA MOM, DELMIA Apriso, and if you think that my background is DELMIA Apriso, you are right. You know? Because usually you talk longest about the things that you know best. One more was the DELMIA MOM, because in the previous slide I focused more on the platform. I tried to explain how it works, what it provides, what is out of the box, what is not, and how you can use it not only on the shop floor but also on the enterprise level. But this is more about, let's say, the functional coverage. A significant part of this MOM section in the DELMIA portfolio, and there are a couple of questions in the exam as well, are about ISA 95 standard, which is a global standard for different level of enterprise systems that are used in the manufacturing world. And sometimes we need to explain. Actually, not sometimes. Very frequently we need to talk about the different layers of ISA 95 to our customers, because DELMIA Apriso connects different kind of systems to provide an end-to-end solution. Like the lower level of the ISA 95 are about machine integration. So you have the sensors and PLCs on the machines on the shop floor, which Apriso talks to in order to control the machines and to collect the information to produce KPIs. But also we talk to ERP systems, which are at level 4. And in fact, we have the MPI solution, which is sort of the level 5 of the ISA 95. And depends on the implementation, Apriso sometimes stays at level 3, where in the ideal model it belongs, but sometimes it spreads towards level 2, sometimes it spreads to level 4 and 5. So the reason I'm saying this is that if you get to this point and you think it's complicated, don't be discouraged, but please study this part of the DELMIA portfolio particularly well, because it is important, and you will have questions about this in the exam. The last part about the DELMIA portfolio is the SCPO. Let me take a sip of coffee. So SCPO stands for Supply Chain Planning and Operations, where we have different categories of planning and operations. And at this moment, or in the current view of the DELMIA Brand Essentials, the SCPO is DELMIA Ortems. But you may have heard of Quintic as well, and Quintic officially became DELMIA as of January 1st. So, but we are still waiting for the official release of the new positioning of DELMIA that includes Quintic. Yeah, so this exam and this training material is from the pre-Quintic world, so to say. So what you can see here in this bigger screenshot, this is the structure of the Ortems, DELMIA Ortems. So DELMIA Ortems is a software that allows planning and scheduling, and is mostly, or is best used for a plant-centric solutions, not enterprise-centric, where the Ortems has two main modules. One is the production scheduler, and the other is manufacturing planner. There are two main modules, and then depending on the solution and on the customer requirement, some dimension of multi-level BOM synchronization can be used either with production scheduler or with manufacturing planner or with both. It really depends on the complexity of the requirements. But so this is the functional layer of the DELMIA Ortems. And the technical layer is that we have an Ortems VIC. VIC is visual interface, oh, I just forgot the word. Configurator, visual interface configurator. So basically, any tweaks to screens to business logic are done in Ortems VIC. Then we have standard adapters to connect to MES systems and to ERP, particularly to SAP. And we have a reporting functionality. Yeah, so this is Ortems. And you will have much more about this, including customer case studies. So what I told you about the DM, about MOM and the SCPO, I just gave the highlights. I just touched the top of the iceberg. The training content has much more details, and each of the values they are explained not only theoretically, but we use customer case studies extensively. So I think that you will like the training program and you will be able to study it and learn a lot from it. In DELMIA Business Overview does not really have questions in the DELMIA Brand Essentials exam. But in DELMIA Business Overview, the most important section are about DELMIA's main competitors. And we have identified 4 main competitors, where I think the two that are really main are the Siemens and SAP. We outlined their strategies, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, and you will find some more information how to be successful when you are positioning DELMIA against these competitors. But what is important here is that DELMIA Brand Essential is part of each Articulate program that is deployed to the VS channel, and is a prerequisite to take the Articulate training and exam. And in the exam for Articulate, we have some questions about one DELMIA customers and competitors. This goes back to what I mentioned in this call already, that we don't position Apriso separately or Ortems separately or digital manufacturing separately. We position everything as one DELMIA as a digital continuity. So in the MOM Articulate and in the SCPO Articulate exams, there are not many questions of this, but there are some questions that are referring to DELMIA competitors and to DELMIA customers. So that's why my suggestion is to look into this business overview section, to review the main competitors information, and also to review the customer references. So altogether, this is quite a lot of material. Yes, this is quite a lot of material and a lot of things to study. The good news is that the materials is not only available in the online form, also it is presented in the best as online in 3DX University, but each of the sections that you can see for the Brand Essentials has a button that says equivalent. The equivalent, if you click on this, you will be taken to a link which allows you to download a PDF with the relevant content for each section. So I know that some people use the strategy when they take an exam that in fact the exam is the open book exam. So this means that you are allowed to use training materials while you take the exam. And I think that a lot of people prefer to have the PDFs either on computer or perhaps printed out. So they like to have the PDFs at hand when they take the exam, and that's something that we allow, that we support, and we encourage you to do. And I think that's all for the content of the DELMIA Brand Essentials. I wish you all good luck. I hope that I encourage you more than I discourage you from taking the Brand Essentials. So now I would like to ask you if there are any questions.